Hi, today's video is about how I scored 28 out of 30 in the TOEFL iBT speaking test. So first of all, I'd like to tell you why it's important to have a good score, 26 plus score in the TOEFL iBT speaking section. At first it increases your chance of admission. So you are probably applying for higher studies in some native English speaking country. So you need to have good TOEFL iBT score in general. But if you have good score in the TOEFL iBT speaking section, it means you have a very good understanding and very good command over the English language. Second is that when I was looking for some universities in the United States, what I noticed was that some universities require a score of 26 or up in order for you to be eligible for the TA position. So if you have a score lower than 26, according to the websites of those universities, for example, one such university is the Florida State University, official website. I was looking into it even yesterday. So what they require is that you have a score you have a score of 26 or plus in the TOEFL iBT speaking section if you want to be considered for the position of TA, teaching assistant. The third reason is it gives you ample amount of confidence in facing the interview board during your admission process. And lastly, it proves that you are an efficient speaker, which is very crucial, because when you are going abroad, when you are going to the university that you are trying to get enrolled at, what happens is you have to interact with a lot of people. For example, when attending a class, you have to talk to your professor, your classmates. Inside the campus, you have to go to the library, you have to go to your dorm, so you have to interact with lots of people. So it's very important for you to have a very good command over the English language. Not that you have to speak like a native, but what you have to have is very good command over English. That will boost your confidence in your venture towards higher studies. The second thing I'd like to address is why some people find speaking as the most challenging skill of a language. There are 4 skills in a language: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. Speaking is often considered to be the most difficult one. So here are a couple of reasons. The first is that we do not speak in our second language pretty often. Why don't we do that? Because it's not a requirement for us. So even if you pursue your higher studies in your country, not higher studies, what I mean is, even if you probably have, attended your higher secondary level or your college level at your home country, maybe you are not acquainted with, classrooms where the teacher delivers all the lectures and says everything in English language. So now it's a difficulty. So the thing is that people who do not who are not native English speakers often do not speak in English a lot. So that's the first difficulty. The second problem with speaking in English is that the EFL speakers, English as foreign language speakers, do not have a very good grasp of vocabulary. So it happens that you are probably trying to express something in English, but you cannot do that because your vocabulary is not that great. Now, don't feel disheartened. What you have to do is to take the proper trajectory that will lead you towards improving your, vocabulary. The next is to make grammatical mistakes. What we often do is we find it so hard speaking in English, speaking in a foreign language, that we oftentimes ignore the grammatical mistakes that we are making. Now, why does that happen? It happens because no one corrects the mistakes that we make. So if we could ask somebody, if we could record our voices speaking in English, we could get our recordings checked by someone, we could probably get feedbacks on the kind of mistakes we make. So now that should be included in your English speaking strategy. Now what I'm going to do is to discuss what's inside the TOEFL iBT speaking section. The TOEFL iBT speaking section consists of 4 different sections, 4 parts. There are 4 tasks, and this new method was introduced in August 2019. Before that, there used to be 6 different tasks. So what ETS did was to reduce the amount of time necessary to take the test from 3.5 hours to 3 hours. So they reduced it by 30 minutes. Now in the first section, the first task is basically an independent speaking task, and the later 3 tasks, task 2, 3, and 4, are integrated speaking tasks. So in total, you will be given about 17 minutes to complete this speaking section. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Let's talk about the first task, task 1, independent speaking task. So in this section, what you have to do is to give your opinion about a given topic. Here's an example topic. For example, some people enjoy taking risks and trying new things. Others are not adventurous. They are cautious and prefer to avoid danger. Which behavior do you think is better? Now, what you have to do is to take a stance, take a position, and based on your position, the position you have taken, you have to create an argument in favor of it. What you have to do is to tell that you prefer this, then you have to give an example why you think it's a better deal, and you have to summarize what you have said. You'll be given 15 minutes to prepare your answer and 45 minutes to actually respond to it. And the second task is integrated speaking task. It has basically 2 things. First, you'll be given a passage to read, which will be about 100 words, and a conversation will follow. So what happens in this section is that, for example, you'll be given a leaflet or something like that, and probably 2 students will create an argument in favor or disapproving what's in the leaflet. Or maybe you're talking to a librarian and there is this piece of paper or this news that you have read. Now what you have to do is to talk to the librarian, or the librarian, a student is talking to the librarian, and the librarian is giving, or the student is giving a differing opinion. What you have to do is to take notes and articulate what the differing argument was. This section basically tests your note-taking skills and how well you can present the idea that has been shared by the speaker. So it's important to read the passage and take good notes of the conversation that you hear. So you'll be given 30 seconds to prepare your answer, and you have to finish the answer in 60 seconds. The third section is also integrated speaking task. What happens in this section, this part, is that you'll be required to read a passage, an academic passage, and an academic lecture. Part of an academic lecture will be played on the very same topic. So maybe the passage will present an idea, and the professor will make a contrasting argument based on the reading passage. Now what we have to do is to answer to the question that says why the professor creates the opposing argument. Now what you have to do is to follow the instruction, and you have to read the passage, take notes, and also you have to listen to the academic lecture and take notes. And based on your notes, you have to create the response. Now you'll be given 30 seconds to prepare your answer and 60 seconds to actually speak out and say what you want to say. So that's the third task. And the fourth task is also an integrated speaking task. This task is pretty simple and straightforward. So you'll be given the task of listening to an academic lecture, and you have to summarize what the professor has said. So this is basically taking notes and to articulate what the professor has said. It's not much of a deal. What is required for you is to be attentive and listen to the lecture, and then you'll be given 20 seconds to prepare your response. You obviously have taken some notes based on which you will be able to prepare for the speaking task, and then you'll be given actually 60 seconds to speak out, to say what you're supposed to respond to the question. So, these are basically the 4 tasks in the TOEFL iBT speaking section. Now, what I'm going to focus is how you should prepare for your speaking test. First of all, you have to keep in mind that time is key. You have to learn to manage time. So since we have this problem of not speaking in English a lot of times, what we do is once we start speaking, we lose our control, and we keep speaking. So it happens basically for 2 reasons. First of all, we sometimes lack confidence that what we are saying doesn't make proper sense. So that's why I have to actually try to speak in a way that people understand, first of all. And the second reason is that speaking is the kind of skill where we love to present ourselves. We love to share our ideas to others. So once we start speaking, we lose our control. That's something that happens to some of the people. The second thing you have to make sure is that you speak with ease. I have seen a lot of people who try to mimic the native speakers, and as a result, they lose confidence. So you have to be a natural speaker. No matter where you're from, which part of the world you're from. Now, what you have to keep in mind is that it is not important what accent you have. It is important for you to speak clearly, coherently, concisely. What you say has to make sense. Now, that's what you have to focus on. The third thing is that it happens to some people. I've seen some of my students do this mistake. So what they do is they stop in the middle of a sentence. For example, you are trying to, make an argument or something. You're trying to say something, but you lose control in the middle of the sentence. You feel sort of derailed. You don't actually know what thing you are supposed to say. And this happens in the middle of the sentence. You speak halfway through the sentence and then you stop. Don't do that. You learn to finish your sentence. It doesn't matter how poor your vocabulary is or whatever. You have to be, you have to be able to keep the train running. You cannot stop it in the middle of the road. The next thing is to avoid grammatical mistake. Now, for that, what you have to do is to record some audio clips. Sometimes take an idea or prepare a question for yourself, then try to answer to this question and record the whole answer. Now, when you take your own recording, what you'll notice is that you'll be astonished to recheck it, that you'll find a lot of mistakes in it. Now, by that, you can correct your own grammatical mistakes, and also you can get your recordings checked by someone who has a better grasp of English language. The third is to improve your vocabulary. You can do that by reading, newspaper articles or new books, and you can download lots of GRE or TOEFL books from different online sources, and those books have lots of words enlisted that are commonly appear in TOEFL tests. So what you can do is to collect those books, or you can read newspaper articles and other books, and what you should do is to highlight the words that are unknown to you and try to write down the meanings of those words and try to use those words when you speak in English. Now, you can probably pair up with someone. You can find someone who's also interested in improving his or her speaking skills, and you can practice. You can speak together. No use of any other language when you two are speaking. Now, you can do that. That can help. The next thing you have to do is to keep a couple of things in your mind. The first is that we are not habituated with speaking with the computer. We're habituated with speaking with people. So what you have to keep in mind is that talking to a computer is more like talking to someone over the phone. So we're habituated with speaking with people over the phone. Now this is where the TOEFL test is a bit different from the IELTS or other in-person tests. Now, even though you're talking to a computer, you have to keep in mind that some actual person is going to listen to what you are saying, and they're going to evaluate what you have said, dissect your speech. Now that's you have to keep in mind. The second thing is that test centers are a very noisy place, because you'll see that when you are speaking, when you are going through the speaking section of your TOEFL IBT test, lots of other people are also speaking simultaneously. So what you have to keep in mind is that the noise must not distract you. So in order to avoid that, what you should do is try to speak in English outside. So probably you can go to a park, you can go to a restaurant, and over there you can practice your speaking skills. You can record your speech. So people will probably not understand if you use a microphone to record your speech. People will not be able to understand whether you're speaking with someone or you're speaking to yourself. So you can do that. The next thing you have to keep in mind is that you have to have a very good grasp of the type of questions that you'll be asked, the type of tasks you'll be required to go through in each of the TOEFL IBT tests sections. So it's not only about your speaking section, but you have to understand the type of questions that will appear, the type of reading or listening passages that will be there. You have to have very good grasp of the whole 3 hours of the TOEFL IBT test. And the last thing, not the least, is to keep in mind that you have to practice and practice and practice. There are lots of preparatory contents available on the internet. There are lots of different sources, but what I would really recommend you to do is to buy the genuine tests, sample tests, mock tests from the ETS website, because they're genuine, and the kind of tests you can take at your home will be the same kind of tests you're going to have at the test center. Now, because of the coronavirus pandemic, ETS has opened up this option of the home edition of the TOEFL IBT test, but this is not going to be a long-term deal. So when this coronavirus pandemic is over, ETS will switch back to their in-person test center oriented tests. So that's what you have to keep in mind, and you have to practice and practice and practice. There are lots of people who watch a lot of YouTube videos, read different materials that state the kind of contents they're going to be in a test, or they try to learn different hacks and this and that. But keep one thing in mind, which is there is no shortcut to success. Yes, it's very important to have some strategies, but your success will never come as shortcuts. So what you have to do is to practice and practice and practice. You have to take a lot of sample tests. Those are available, some of them are available freely on different websites, but buy some tests, take the tests, run those tests as diagnostics for you. So you'll be able to understand the kind of mistakes you do. Until you take a test, you'll never be able to fully understand the kind of mistakes you do. And if this happens that you for some reason blunder in one of the 4 sections of the TOEFL IBT test, the whole test score will be affected by it. So once again, there is no alternative to testing. Now, before I conclude the video, I'd like to ask if you have any question. The comment section will remain open. If you have any question, you can ask. And since this is my first video on TOEFL, it might contain some issues. It might have some kind of amateurish vibe in it, but I will try to upload some more videos on different sections of the TOEFL iBT test and how to do well in the test and everything. So don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and thank you for your patience, and good luck for your TOEFL iBT test. Bye bye. See you in the next video.